Hey everyone, Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com. This week's training vlog will be a brand new template from the guys over at Barbell Medicine. I'll be doing the Powerbuilding 2 template from the new wave of digital templates released a couple of weeks ago. This template is focused on both powerlifting and bodybuilding, hence the term Powerbuilding. So it's a hypertrophy focused program that centers around the powerlifting main lifts as well as overhead press. So it's a great program, takes 4 days a week, includes some GPP training, which I won't be discussing because that's not really the main purpose of the program. Nevertheless, here we go with day one. Again, starting off with some squats. Just like the previous videos, I'll be highlighting some of the warm-ups. That way you can see exactly how I like to warm up. I don't do any muscle activation, any stretching, any foam rolling, anything like that, or even any 5-minute general warm-ups. I'll just literally put my shoes on, put my knee sleeves on, and start squatting with an empty barbell. But what I will do is around 15 reps, about at least 2 sets, but sometimes I'll head up to 3 sets. What dictates that is how well my hips feel, my knees feel, how well everything kind of feels. And to help warm up the shoulders, what I do is I start with a wider grip, and then each subsequent rep I'll start pulling that grip in to loosen up the shoulders as I go through. So I generally start with 135, and then once that 135 plate goes on, I'll only do the reps that the working sets call for. So with this program it calls for 6 reps, so what I'll do is each warm up prior to that will be 6 reps. So this being the first week, this will be the last warm-up set before my working set. It's quite a low weight on the RPE scale, so we're only working up to a single set of 6 at RPE 8. So this will be RPE 7 right here for 6 reps. I like the way the program's structured, so you're not immediately hitting a high amount of volume with a relatively heavy load. They start you off with a lower intensity as well as a lower volume recommendation. So here we go, the actual working set at 8 for 6 reps. So probably a touch high there with the squat. The knees are staying in place towards the bottom, which is good, showing more quad drive. Something I've been working on. I could probably stop my head moving back and forth as the sets go forth. Yeah, all these reps are kind of slightly high, I think, from this perspective. That one was good. So that was that. So again, the template is set up not for like a leg day or whatever, so it's just trying to break up squats, bench, and a deadlift format. So here we have some close grip bench pressing on the incline. Really enjoying this incline bench. The close grip feels good. I could work on touching the chest so that I get a full range of motion on each and every rep. That's definitely one thing that's lacking there. And also bringing the bar lower on the chest. You can see my forearms aren't completely vertical. They kind of have an upright tilt, which isn't great just because of force transfer. Nothing to do with health of the shoulder joint. It's just an inefficient way to lift. But generally with the closer grip, your elbows won't be able to flare out as much, so they will be pointing forward, so you need to bring that bar a little bit lower on the chest in order to have that stable platform. And here we have some split squats. I recently learnt that the difference between a split squat and a lunge is the split squat you have more weight over the front leg, so you want to try and think of having over 75% of the weight on the front leg, and the rear leg is really just there for support. So we have a different angle. I've just been using dumbbells here because I wasn't too sure how heavy these could go. I think that's what I was doing wrong previously with split squats. I was treating them as lunges, so now I'm really feeling a lot more burn in the front quad, which I think is the purpose of this. A higher rep set here, definitely getting that burnout. So now we move on to day 2, where the main lift is a bench press. So again, definitely in these warm-ups you can see, I didn't see this until now, but you can see that forearm is definitely not vertical at anywhere in this lift. So either I should flare my elbows out a little bit more, or I need to lower the bar position on the chest. Obviously, I think I just need to lower the bar position on the chest. But here in the warm-ups, I try and focus on technique. That's really the general driving force of every warm-up set. If your body doesn't feel up for it, I don't try and load up some weight too quickly, too soon. So you'll feel that with empty bars. So I can do anywhere up to at least 2, but I might go up to 4 sets of an empty bar. So here again, we go with the final warm-up set before I hit the heavy final set at 8. Again, this is 6 reps for 7 RPE. The final set will be 6 reps for 8 RPE. This is meant to be a competition style bench press, but you can definitely not see any pausing. That's another thing I need to work on. There was a pause there. So the main reason to focus on having that pause there is if you do compete in powerlifting, is a judge calls out when you need to press that weight up. So let's look here for the pause. That's cool. I could probably stabilize it a little bit more at the bottom, but there is a slight pause there, which is better than the first ones. The reason I emphasize the need for a pause is another accessory bench press variant is the touch bench press, which is kind of what I was performing earlier here in these reps. So really need to focus on pausing at the bottom. And here we have some SSB squats as the squat variety for today. You'll notice with this program, most of the movements are either a variant of the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, or the overhead press, hence the powerlifting part of the power building template. So we're going to use these 3 main movements and their varieties in order to drive muscle growth and hypertrophy. The SSB is great because it takes some stress off of the shoulders, puts the weight a bit forward of the center of gravity, meaning it replicates kind of a front squat without having to have the weight on the clavicles. Some people like that, some people don't. I generally prefer the SSB squat over the front squat. Here I'm using the Elite FTS SSB yoke bar, SSB safety squat bar. So here we have some Maya reps. I didn't like Maya reps the last time I used their templates, but I'm starting to come around to that fact. I think I'm understanding the purpose and the mentality behind the Maya reps. Basically, you're activating a lot of the muscles. Think of it as a burnout set for bodybuilding. So we pick a weight that we can do for 15 reps at around an RPE 8 or 9, wait 20 seconds, and then do that weight again for 5 reps. And what you do here is you just repeat that over and over again until you can't hit 5 reps, and the set that you can only do 4 reps in is the set that you stop. So this is definitely a good hypertrophy movement, but you're getting in a lot of volume at a really light weight. But the mentality behind it is because you're giving the muscles minimal rest, you're actually activating more muscles with the light weight as more muscle fibers fatigue throughout the entire set. So I think the problem that I had previously was I would pick a weight that was too light. This also drives up your conditioning and your recovery. Because what was happening before is a weight that I could do for 15 reps with only 20 seconds break was relatively light because I wasn't that well conditioned. So occasionally on movements, I would be able to do anywhere from 50 reps onwards, and I would just stop the movement. And because of the prescription of it, the purpose isn't to increase the weight as you go, just keep that same weight, and you're really wanting to activate more and more muscle fibers as they fatigue, which you can definitely feel here. So the first set of 5 is probably at like an RPE 6, 6.5, and then subsequently each maybe 2 or 3 sets after that, you're increasing the RPE scale until eventually you get to RPE 9, 9.5, and then after that 20 seconds you're probably going to only hit, I like to squeeze out one more set after that, and then I'll back it down to 4, and then that'll be the end of the day. But I really enjoy these now because I'm understanding the purpose behind them. You can definitely feel the pump effect after doing this exercise, especially with this pressing movement in like the front delt and the triceps. This like really hits those triceps, and for a big bench press and an overhead press, you really need some strong triceps, and that's something I've been lacking in my training recently, is tricep work. I think that's probably one of the weak points in my lifting. So I think this is great because it drives up your need to just, I guess the typical bro science mindset would be you need to flood the muscle with blood, which what this is kind of doing, but it's a lot more complex than that, in that you're kind of pre-fatiguing, post-fatiguing the muscles in order to drive some volume and hypertrophy. This is not a rep scheme in order to drive up strength. This is a rep scheme more to drive blood and hypertrophy gains into the muscle group. And also what it does help is, you're noticing here I'm getting a lot of reps in. So this is a lot of just repetitions, obviously, of the same movement. So what it does help with is movement practice, technique improvement, especially technique when you're fatigued, because right now I'm pretty tired, and you can see my form is starting to break down. My back is arching a lot more, and once that happens, I like to stop right there. So now we move on to day 3, which is the deadlift focused session of the day. So for the deadlifts, because I don't like to do it from the floor, I'll do 10 to 15 reps of RDLs to warm up with, just out of the rack. This way I'm able to really focus on the hamstrings and keeping that lower back tight, kind of open up the lower back almost as well. I'll have a slightly wider grip than usual as well for the first couple of reps, and that's just to help also activate the lats and warm everything up back there. So I'm trying to make the RDL as inefficient as possible as a movement for the warm-ups. So it'll be two sets of around 10 to 15 reps. And then I opted for some barefoot deadlifting this week. The warm-up set, I'm really focusing on technique, getting the motion right, getting the back set. I could possibly bring my feet in a little bit. It looks like my legs aren't exactly going in the perfectly straight line in the movement. And what I've been focused on lately with the deadlift technique is thinking of leg drive. So what I think of here, it's probably meaning my hips are dropping lower than they should be. But I'm really thinking of driving the floor away from the barbell rather than picking the barbell up off the floor. I'm trying to shift the focus of the deadlift from a quintessential pulling movement to a quintessential pushing movement. What that does is it activates more quads in the movement and just adds more muscle mass in order to drive up more weight. The reasoning behind this is you want to think of when you're pushing a heavy piece of furniture and you kind of wiggle yourself in between a wall and that heavy piece of furniture, and you push that chest of drawers away from the wall. That's the similar motion of what you want to be doing with the deadlift. You want to think of pushing the floor, separating the barbell from the floor by pushing the floor away from you rather than pulling the barbell up off the floor. This stabilizes the back, activates more quads, and just helps with activating more muscles to drive some more weight up. So here we have the final warm-up set at RPE 7. What you want to look for in this is the bar stays in a completely straight path. That is quintessential of a really good deadlift. Any movement backwards or forwards, rolling of the bar as the bar lifts off the ground, is a sign that you're in an inefficient setup. So there we go. For the most part, pretty good setup there. No real drifting of the bar backwards or forwards. And we think of squeezing the bar up. You can see my hips do move a little bit before the bar shoots up, and I think that's what's happening when I'm focusing on the leg drive. Ideally, none of your body moves before the barbell moves. Any movement before the barbell lifts off that ground is a sign of a power leak within the movement. So what I really want to be doing is raising those hips up to that point and then lifting the bar. So that should be my starting point. If you watch yourself in replay like I'm doing now, watch where the barbell starts to lift off the ground, and that should be your starting movement. And here we have the bench press variety for today, which is some touch bench press. So I touched on earlier that the touch bench press is different from the competition bench press in that there is no pause at the bottom of the lift. So if my competition bench press doesn't incorporate that pause, it's not a true competition style bench press, and this is just another variety of a touch bench press. So that's why I want to focus on including that pause in the bench pressing. I can't really see it here because this wasn't the best angle, but I don't think my forearms are vertical again, and it's definitely something I'm going to be working on in the future, is lowering that touch point of the barbell in order to have those vertical forearms. So here we have the final movement for today, which are some pendlay rows. This was an AMRAP at 195 pounds for 15 reps. I do a little pause there. I'm not too sure if this is true for an AMRAP, but as long as I don't stand up and there was only a couple of breaths here, I'm going to take it. I'm going to allow that. So you can see definitely a lot of movement, a lot of hip drive in order to get that barbell up. One could argue that's not great. I'm not too concerned with it. I'm moving the weight, so that's really all that matters. I'm moving the weight from the floor to the stomach, so I'm getting that full range of motion with minimal leg drive. And I like to think of this as a deadlift accessory movement rather than a quintessential back movement. So again, the third exercise for every day, you notice, is more of a hypertrophy focused, low weight, high volume, set rep weight scheme. This is to drive up those hypertrophy gains. Hypertrophy is a product of volume. I mean, it's more driven by volume than strength is by intensity. So they're kind of two ends of the spectrum there. So we have day 4. This is the overhead press day. I've been experimenting with using squat shoes for the overhead press, which would allow for a bit more back lean. I'm trying it out to see how it feels over the next couple of weeks. Just with the way the body angles work and the center of gravity, just because that barbell has the potential to be so far in front of you, it's always going to want to pull you forward. So having that slight ability, so that under 1 inch ability to lean slightly back, can give you a little bit of a better balance. That's a theory anyway, so I'm seeing how well that works. So here we have the set of 6 for overhead pressing. A little bit of leg drive there. You can see my head is still not shooting as forward as it should be, as quickly as it should be, and my lower back is really shooting out there. So what I need to do, so you can see that forward lean, I'm probably still getting used to the squat shoe, so I need to lean back a little bit more, tighten the glutes up, and then really breathe into the core, because what this is showing is a really weak core and really weak stability in my torso. My back's shooting out, so my butt's shooting out and my abs are shooting forward, leading to a really big arch in the back, and you can see there I got pushed forward with the weight. And then here we have the deadlift accessory movement for the day, which are some RDLs. Again, I like to start from the floor. The program recommends to not use any lifting belts for any of the accessory movements, so that's what I'm trying to do for the rest of the program, is leave the belts out of it. I am wanting to focus on increasing my grip strength, so I do want to try to limit the use of lifting straps for my deadlift accessory movements. So we'll see how that works out in the long run. So that wraps up the first week of the Powerbuilding 2 template by barbellmedicine.com. Highly recommend checking them out. Not just their website, but their Instagram, their YouTube. They put out some amazing information for free, all backed by 2 doctors, scientifically proven, evidence-based recommendations and suggestions and answers to questions that you might have. I found them to be a wealth of information. I can't recommend them enough. I'll put all the relevant links below. Check out my blog as well, WynnStrength.com. That's where I do a weekly write-up of my training, so you'll find a little bit more information there than what I can go through on the video. So highly recommend. Check that out. Like and subscribe. Comment if you're using the Barbell Medicine templates, any one of them. This will be the 3rd template of theirs that I'm using, so again, big fan, can't recommend them enough. Check them out. Again, this has been Selwyn from WynnStrength.com. A better life through strength.